Okay, this is where we left off in the previous lesson. We made our shapes, we made the background, and we also added a position animation for the ball shape that we created. And now in this lesson, we're going to make the ball bounce, rotate, and all of the other things that we need. Right, so this is where we left off. We're going to start with the position. So the ball comes down. I'm going to drag it in even closer because I want it to kind of fall faster. That's just the natural speed of a falling object. It's not going to be that slow. So I'm going to keep playing it back until I am happy with the speed. So it's going to fall on the floor. And now it has to go back up because it's going to bounce. So a couple frames back, a couple frames forward, we're going to make another keyframe. I'm going to move it to the left to bring it upwards, like this much. Move forward by a small amount and then bring it back down. And if you'd like, you could choose and determine a space for the falling effect. So I'm going to just drag a ruler. So any bouncing I do needs to end on this ruler. So at one point it doesn't end here and then it goes up here. Then I'm going to move in a few frames and then decide where I want my keyframes to be so that I have a natural movement. I'm going to move the Y axis because it's going up and down to the left to bring it upwards. Then go in a few frames forward. And then bring it back down by going to the right. And actually I feel like the bounce needs to be higher. So I'm going to go back, make it go higher than usual, like maybe this much. Go forward, bring it down. And then go forward, bring it up, less than the first time. You can see these points being created. Going down, and you're going to keep repeating this until the ball has finished bouncing. So as it reaches towards the end of the animation, it's going to land slowly. But watch out for the ruler because we don't want it to move in a unusual manner. Then this will be the last bounce. There we are. So now I have to check to see if the movement is precise. I'm going to drag my timeline and kind of zoom in so that way I can see the spacing between the keyframes, and you can see there's like a big difference. We do not want that, so I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to drag all of my keyframes except these two and kind of bring them closer. I want them to be equally spaced because the movements are not really that distorted. Then I'm going to let go, click and drag the rest, and just place each one precisely, one at a time. Let go, bring these guys, and keep letting go. Bring it here. You can see it snaps in place once you're in the right area. Let go. We got 3 more. And creating them like this, it's going to have a more smooth effect. But of course, we're going to hit F9 at the end to let After Effects decide the timing. I'm going to click away, hit the space bar. You can see that it kind of moves up and down. And now that I saw my animation play back, I saw that it's a bit stiff. So I'm going to slowly go through each one. And with this guy, I guess it means that I need to kind of move it higher. So I will just move this guy on that keyframe. Make sure you're clicking on it. Then I'm going to go back really slowly to make sure it's moving okay. if you're not clicking on the keyframe while you're making adjustments, you're going to create a new keyframe. So then click away, and I'm going to play it again. And you have to keep doing this until your animation makes sense. So if you saw that it's moving too fast, you can always add more space between your keyframes. And you just have to keep playing back until it looks good to you. There is no fast method of understanding if your animation is perfect. Just gotta keep working with the keyframes until you find the right timing. I'm gonna add a little space between each keyframe. See how they look. I'm gonna click away, hit the space bar. And I guess this is better. I think we made some additional keyframes that we do not need. I'm gonna click those two and then hit the backspace. Run it again. So I'm going to go over it slowly. It's coming down. That way I can determine which one is unnecessary. Play it again. Because this is where it looks a bit. It needs to go higher, so I'm just going to grab this guy and move the ball a little higher than where it was. And you can see that I made a new keyframe. Make sure you're on that and have that selected, and move it a bit higher. I'm going to play it back again, see if it looks better. So we have a simple bouncing effect by just using the positioning. So right now it's just going up and down and then bouncing a few times. But the thing with this type of motion is that the ball is not going to be completely stable during the movement. Like it is right now, you can see that it's just the exact same shape, just moving up and down. There will be some rotation. So before I move on with the rotation, I'm just going to click and drag all of my keyframes and hit F9 on my keyboard. I'm going to play it again. Now that After Effects have decided my timing, I'm going to adjust things. I'm going to move my floor a little higher. Unlock it first. Use my arrow keys to move it up. Then I'm going to hit the space bar. And then I'm just going to move the floor around. I'm trying to find the right location for it and see exactly where it needs to be for my animation to look good. I'm going to close and lock this. I feel like we made a mistake. Let me see it again. Yeah, so in the first keyframe, it's not exactly hitting the floor, so I'm going to go on that keyframe, bring it down a little bit. Go over it again. I want to make sure it's perfect. Alright, now it's better. Going from the beginning, I'm going to hit M to close the options for green ball. And then on green ball, I'm going to hit R for rotation. So we're going to go back to where the ball starts to come in place. Or better yet, start from before. And I'm going to turn on the stopwatch. And as it comes down, before it hits the ground, you can see there's like a little space. I'm going to ask it to rotate. This will go to the left. Rotate a slight bit. We don't want it to like change its course. So, and then after, if I hit space, you can see that it's rotating. And then after it rotated and it goes back up, it should change the rotation. So I'm going to go to the point where it's at its peak. I'll make it like rotate a little bit to the right, maybe to 0 degrees or 1. Then when it comes down, it needs to rotate again. So again to the left. And then we have the final movements. Move it to the right. Hits the floor. goes back up, needs to go to the left, goes up, and we're just switching. And the less that the movement is, the less rotation it needs. So 1%, and then it stands still. So we have to edit the first keyframe because the rotation needs to be more at the first interaction with the floor. At the spacebar, I'll see how it looks. All right, so the first keyframe, I'm going to actually start over. When it has such a large impact with the floor, it needs to rotate more. So I'm going to delete that keyframe. I'm going to make it move like 40 degrees to the left. So there it goes. Then let's go back. It hits the floor. When it's coming back up, we need to make it rotate to the right. Then when it's going down to the floor, it needs to go maybe even more to the right. Maybe like this much. And as it slows down, it needs to have less rotation. So I'll go with like 6. Hits the floor, changes its course again. Move it to the right, goes up, goes to the left, slight amount. We said when the impact is less, it shouldn't move that much. Right, let's go back and hit the space bar. You can see now it's kind of moving in a nicer manner. Can hit F9. Bounces. I might be doing the directions wrong. So it's on the left, moves to the right. It's correct so far. It's the right, and then it. Okay, here it needs to be a little bit more intense. Go to the, here you can see it was on the left and it comes to the left again. So that's where we kind of went wrong. Going here, it's to the left, and it needs to be to the right. Let's have a look. Hopefully it's better this time. Right. Just gonna leave it be. It's good rotation. And I'm gonna hit M on my keyboard to get rid of the rotation. Then I'm going to play it back and see what else I need to do with the movement of my green ball. Go back up. Maybe we should make it disappear at the end. So I'll hit T on my keyboard, add the keyframe at 100%. Then a few seconds forward, I'm going to make it 0%. And for this guy, you gotta do it separately for these, because we're kind of dealing with the opacity. So I'll hit Control C on these two keyframes, hit T on this guy, and then Control V. And I'll align it like this. Again, T, Control V, bring it here. I have to move my thing here so I don't have to move it every time. T, Control V, T, Control V. But if your shapes were in a singular group or merged, then you wouldn't need to do all of this. I'm going to select everything, hit F9. Going to hit M to close it off. Spacebar. So after it sets, it disappears. I want to actually enlarge, as in lengthen the period as to where it starts to disappear. Gonna click and then shift to hit all of these. Hit T to open the opacity for all of them. And then I will select the second the second keyframe for all of these layers and move them to the right. Let's have a look, because I want it to disappear slowly. And I'm seeing that the things are not moving at the same time. Going to bring the thing here and make sure they're perfectly aligned. And we should have just merged the shapes in the beginning. It's fine, you guys do that. It's too late to turn back now. Gonna go back from the beginning. Have a look at my ball. Alright, and because we have a floor, it would only make sense to add like a shadow as it appears as it becomes closer to the table. So we would have the shadow of the ball appear, and then as it goes up, it like kind of becomes smaller, it becomes bigger, and that sort of thing. So underneath the green ball, gonna unlock that. So I'm going to make another shape. I'm gonna bring my ball down first so I can get a better look at the shape of the ball. Then create, oops, I'm on the rectangle. Hit Q to get the circle. There we are. Click and drag to make like a shape like this, and then we're going to fill it in with a light gray, or actually a similar orange, and just kind of darken it because it's the shadow of the ball casted on the table. And you saw that I did it on the floor layer, so it became one shape. Don't do that. I'm gonna hit M, click away before I make my shape. Do it like this. Now it's a different layer. Let's name it shadow. Gonna hit V and bring the shadow layer and align it where it is. And you guys can see that the anchor point of my shadow layer, it's way too far from my actual shape. So since I'm going to be scaling my shadow layer in and out, I need to make sure that the scaling is done accordingly and equally. So I need to move the anchor point to the center of this shape. Just go in the pan behind. Just make sure you're on the shadow layer. Click and drag it to the center of that layer. You can zoom in to make sure it's perfect. Hit Edge to come down here. And then we're going to hit pan behind. Bring it to the center. And the shortcut for pan behind is Y. So now that it's in the center, it's going to move evenly when we add animations to it, that is. And we also need to remove the stroke. There's no stroke on shadows. Let's hit Edge. I zoomed out. Using some basic knowledge of animation, I'm going to see when the shadow needs to appear at what time. That would be when the ball is close to the ground, maybe here. So I'm going to hit V first, hit M to close that position layer, and hit S on my keyboard. And first I'm going to make it 0. You can see it goes towards the center. It's a lot easier to just click and type 0. And that's before I turn on the stopwatch, because I do not want keyframes, as in I don't want any keyframes in the beginning. And now this part is when I want it to appear. So I'm going to turn on the stopwatch. And as the ball gets closer, it needs to get bigger. I'm going to go to the part where it reaches the floor. Then I will make it, or just type 100%. So let's go from the beginning with the space bar. See, it appears, but we need to match the bouncing size as well. So it's going upwards. We're going to go to the time where it's at its peak, make it smaller. And remember, the higher it is, the smaller the size is. I'm going to compare it to here. All right, it goes up, it gets smaller. And we're going to go to the part where it's down at the ruler length, and we're going to make it 100% again. And then we're going to move to another part where it's at the top, around here. We're going to make it smaller, but less, a little larger than the previous keyframes. So over here, I believe it was 71 points. So as the bouncing becomes slower and the ball gets closer to the floor, the shadow needs to be larger. All right, it's going to come down, meet the ruler, make it 100. It's going to go up around here, make it like, I guess, 85. Comes down 100%. And that's the last movement. Gonna hit F9 on all of these. Go from the beginning. Let's play it back and see what we have done. It appears, but you can see that the shadow is in front of the ball, and that's not correct. So I'm going to drag my shadow layer behind the ball. I'm going to hit P. You can see the stopwatch is turned off, and I'm just going to drag it behind the ball. Let's go in again. You can see we now have the shadow. And because the green ball disappears, I need to make sure it matches with the ball. So I'm going to hit T on green ball to open the opacity. And because everything else is the same, we're just going to go with the green ball keyframe, which is here. And then I'll go in shadow, hit T to open the opacity, add a keyframe, it's at 100% here, and then make it disappear with the ball. So here it would be 0. And we're going to easy ease these two by hitting F9. Go from the beginning. So it bounces and then disappears completely from our composition. And again, if you have merged the shapes from the beginning, you could avoid this. But I'm going to go to the point where the shapes are still equal. Then I will go in these guys, select all 3, hit T. And that just means that these 3 need to disappear faster than the ball. So it needs to come like maybe here. And then we're going to bring this guy to the side. Let's see if it's better. Okay, need to go a little closer. Almost there. Let's do that again. All right. So we also need to do the same thing with the yellow top. Hit T. Move the second guy around here. All right, so that's better. Let me do that again. Okay, that's a lot better than when we saw these stripes disappearing. Now we have a simple ball animation. Going to select everything. Hit M to close all these panels. Lock the floor layer. Now we have a really simple animation that we created easily using After Effects. And what we've learned so far, I'm just going to make the shadow disappear faster than the ball. Alright, that's better. Again, select both, hit M to hide the options. Alright, so this was my animation. It's really simple. And to make it loop, because I wanted to finish when the ball disappears, Gonna move forward to the point where the ball is no longer there. You can see the outlines there. That could be because, yeah, you see the opacity is at 4. Make it at 0. Go on this second guy and make it 0. And we do the same thing with the rest to make sure you can see it's all on 4. It has to be on 0 or else they will not disappear. Select these 3, make them 0. And also this guy, the yellow top, make it 0. Let's have a look. Make sure it disappears. There we are. So this is where my animation would end. I'm going to expand my timeline and then bring the work end area to where my animation ends. Let me see where that was. Okay, it's here. I'm going to close it. There. So now if I start my animation from the beginning, play it, it's going to loop, and now it's a better animation because it disappears and then it starts from the beginning. So if you have a short animation, you do not want the work area to be that long because you're going to export an animation like this where the thing will happen, but then there's like nothing. So make sure it's short. And there we are. So that is how you can create a simple animation using After Effects, and the things we've learned so far was really simple, and it will be really helpful for you guys to create this and work with it until it looks perfect. I will see you guys in the next lessons.